My name is Rachel, and I grew up in a family where all the attention was focused on my older sister Emily. From a young age, I was accustomed to being compared to her and lacking recognition from my parents. Emily, 3 years older than me, was the shining star of the family. With her golden hair and clear singing voice, she was adored and admired by everyone. Family gatherings in our backyard always revolved around Emily. Under the big maple tree, she would often stand on a chair and sing popular songs. The endless applause, the compliments from aunts and uncles, and the proud looks in my parents' eyes made me feel like a faint shadow beside her. Emily was enrolled in singing, dancing, and even painting classes, while I, starting at the age of 10, had to explore the world on my own through old books on the shelf in our living room. I loved reading and learning about astronomy and history, but my interests never received any attention from my parents. I often heard remarks from relatives. "Rachel is nothing like Emily. She's quiet and doesn't stand out." Those words felt like knives cutting into my young heart, making me feel inadequate and unworthy. My parents didn't hide their favoritism either. All their investments were for Emily. I remember when I was 12, they saved up to buy her an expensive piano to support her practice, while I was left with her old bike, its wheels squeaking and brakes screeching. Whenever Emily won awards in singing competitions, she would be rewarded with new clothes or modern toys. As for me, even when I scored the highest in class on a math test, the most I received was a reluctant nod and a comment like, "Yeah, you did well." My childhood passed in the shadows, under the brilliance of Emily's spotlight and my parents' indifference. I realized early on that if I wanted to be acknowledged, I would have to find a way to step out from under her enormous shadow. Amid the indifference and constant comparisons in my family, the only person who truly saw my worth was Aunt Maggie. She was my mother's older sister, living alone in a cozy little house in the suburbs, a place I often escaped to whenever I felt suffocated at home. Aunt Maggie, with her neatly tied silver hair and warm eyes, always welcomed me with a tight hug and an encouraging smile. She never asked why I avoided family gatherings or why I didn't want to stay home. Instead, she would simply sit beside me and listen to whatever I wanted to share. Afternoons at Aunt Maggie's house were always filled with peace. We would sit on the wooden chairs on her porch, sipping tea and chatting. She would often ask, "Rachel, what are you reading today?" When I hesitantly handed her a book about astronomy or history that I loved, she would always show genuine interest. "You're so smart, Rachel. Never let anyone make you think otherwise," she would say, her eyes shining with pride. Her words felt like a soothing balm for the daily pain I endured. When I was 17 and learned that my parents wouldn't support me going to college, it felt like every door in front of me had slammed shut. I went to Aunt Maggie's house, trying to hide my sadness, but the tears came anyway. She listened quietly, not interrupting, and finally placed a hand on my shoulder. "Rachel, you don't have to go through this alone." I looked at her in disbelief, tears streaming down my face. "But you need that money for yourself," I stammered. She simply smiled. "Rachel, you are the future. Don't worry about me. I believe you'll do incredible things." Her offer wasn't just financial support. It was a vote of confidence that she placed in me. It was the first time in my life that someone believed in my abilities without needing me to prove or explain myself. She helped me apply to a public university and enroll in the management program I had always dreamed of. Throughout my college years, Aunt Maggie was not only my financial supporter but also my emotional anchor. Our regular phone calls became a constant source of encouragement. "You're doing so well, Rachel," she would say, every time I shared about my grades or a tough exam I had conquered. Aunt Maggie didn't just help me escape the unfairness in my family, she taught me how to value myself. She wasn't the mother I had, but she was undoubtedly the mother I needed. Thanks to Aunt Maggie, I found my path. A path I walked with confidence and belief in myself. The early days of college were when I truly felt a sense of freedom and opportunity. With Aunt Maggie's support, I enrolled at Illinois State University, majoring in management, a field I had dreamed of studying for so long. When I received my acceptance letter along with a partial scholarship for my academic achievements, I cried tears of joy. It was the moment I realized that all my hard work and perseverance had finally paid off. But college life wasn't easy. I had to work part-time at the campus library to cover the remaining tuition fees and pay for my living expenses. Late at night, when the dorm room lights had gone out, I would still be at my desk, immersed in textbooks on business management and strategic planning. There were times when the exhaustion was overwhelming, and I felt like giving up. But every time I thought of Aunt Maggie and the faith she had in me, I reminded myself, Rachel, you can't fail. Aunt Maggie has sacrificed too much to give you this chance. Beyond academics, I threw myself into extracurricular activities to build my skills and expand my network. I joined the business club, where I learned teamwork and problem-solving through real-world projects. Over time, I transformed from the quiet girl I used to be into someone confident and unafraid to speak up and defend my ideas. As my final year of college came to an end, I received incredible news. The university awarded me a full scholarship for the next semester, because of my outstanding academic performance and contributions to extracurricular activities. It was a turning point that eased my financial worries and allowed me to focus entirely on preparing for my Every step forward felt like proof, to myself and the world, that I, Rachel, was no longer the forgotten girl in the shadows. With determination and Aunt Maggie's unwavering support, I had risen above and achieved what I once only dared to dream of. I knew this was just the beginning of a promising journey ahead. After graduating from Illinois State University with top honors in management, I stepped into the real world with determination and big ambitions. One of the most pivotal moments in my journey was receiving a job offer from the Golden Plate, one of the most prestigious restaurants in Chicago. It wasn't just an opportunity to apply what I had learned, but a chance to prove my worth in a challenging professional environment. Initially, I started as an assistant manager, a role that demanded dedication and attention to detail. The first few days were far from easy. I had to adjust to the pressures of managing staff, handling demanding customer requests, and ensuring every aspect of the restaurant ran smoothly. At times, I felt overwhelmed. But as always, the image of Aunt Maggie and her unwavering belief in me kept me moving forward. I immersed myself in the work, learning from seasoned professionals, taking notes on even the smallest details, and constantly striving to improve. In just 2 years, I was promoted to general manager. This milestone was significant not just for the title, but as a testament to my relentless efforts. Under my leadership, the restaurant experienced remarkable revenue growth, and we earned numerous prestigious awards for service quality and customer experience. My dedication was recognized not only by the staff, but also by the leadership team, and some of their individual revenue goals. I was also recognized not only by the staff, but also by the leadership team. 3 years later, when Michael Reeves, the owner of the Golden Plate, decided to retire, he presented me with the biggest opportunity of my life: the position of CEO for the restaurant chain he had so meticulously built. The day he called me into his office and said, "Rachel, I've never seen anyone with your talent and passion. I believe you're the perfect person to carry this legacy forward." I could hardly believe my ears. At that moment I understood that every effort, every sacrifice, and every tear had been worth it. From a girl who was once overlooked, I had become the leader of one of the most renowned restaurant chains in the city. Most importantly, I had proven that true value isn't defined by others. It's created by ourselves. When I took on the role of CEO at the Golden Plate, my life turned to a new chapter, one full of challenges but also immense pride. Meanwhile, Emily, the older sister who had once been the center of our family, was heading down an unexpected path. One day, Aunt Maggie called me with a somber tone, telling me that Emily had returned home with some troubling news. She was unexpectedly pregnant and facing severe financial difficulties. I was stunned as I listened, my heart heavy, not just for Emily's decline but also for the lingering pain I still felt from the injustices of our past. Emily was no longer the shining star of the family she once was. My parents, who had placed all their hopes and attention on her, were now forced to confront a harsh reality. The man Emily had trusted to build a family with had left her after discovering she had been involved in another relationship. Amid the chaos, Emily was left with no choice but to find a job to support herself and her unborn child. Emily replaced many of her friends at Olivia, which after her second crash, had effectively dismissed them. With limited options, she accepted a position as a server at Uncle Frank's restaurant. The very job my parents once tried to force on me after high school. When I learned the news, I went to the restaurant where she worked. Seeing Emily, who had once dazzled on the stage of our family, now carrying trays of food in a worn-out uniform, left me stunned. She no longer had the confidence she used to exude. Instead, her eyes looked tired, and her shoulders slumped under the weight of life's burdens. I sat quietly in a far corner, watching her work, my heart heavy with a mix of emotions I couldn't quite define. I didn't go there to mock her or to bring up old wounds. No matter what had happened between us in the past, Emily was still my sister, and I couldn't deny the ache in my heart seeing her in this situation. I left the restaurant without saying a word, but a sense of resolve began to grow within me. I knew that Emily was now facing her own life lessons, just as I had faced mine, and regardless of her mistakes, I sincerely hoped she would find a way to rise and move forward, just as I had. Emily's downfall wasn't just her story. It was a stark reflection of the contrast between our past and present. Growing up, Emily was always the favorite, showered with the best of everything. Family gatherings, expensive gifts, endless praise, all revolved around her, while I was left on the sidelines, quietly enduring. But now, as she faced the consequences of poor decisions and a lack of personal responsibility, Emily no longer enjoyed the unconditional support she once did. My parents, who had once cherished Emily as the star of the family, were now unable to do much to help her. Their finances had been drained after years of funding her art classes and luxurious lifestyle. The pride that once lit up their faces when they spoke about Emily had been replaced with disappointment. But more importantly, Emily, who had once shone so brightly, now had to learn how to face reality without the familiar safety net. At 21, seeing her current situation, I was struck by a profound lesson about perseverance, responsibility, and building self-worth. Emily had lived a life reliant on privileges without considering the consequences, while I had worked tirelessly each day to rise from the shadows. Now, life had made it clear to both of us, privilege alone isn't everything. It's persistence and determination that truly defines success in life. I never thought that hearing my parents talk behind my back could hurt as much as it did. Especially after everything I had done to help them. One Sunday afternoon, while taking a break after a busy work week, I came across a video Aunt Maggie had posted on Facebook. At first, I thought it was just the usual family gathering clips that I no longer participated in. But when I pressed play, my world seemed to crumble. The video was 10 seconds long. That was all I had to watch during the celebration. In the video, my parents were laughing with relatives, speaking about me with cruel words. "Does everyone think Rachel is so accomplished? She doesn't do anything, just enjoys the fruits of others' labor," my mom said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. My dad nodded in agreement. "Exactly. Everything the restaurant has achieved is thanks to Emily. Rachel is nothing more than a shadow." Their words cut deep, like knives slicing through my heart. How could they say such things when I had spent years supporting them, from repairing the roof to covering their monthly bills? I sat frozen, unable to process what I had just heard. A wave of anger, disappointment, and pain surged through me. Memories of wiring money for house repairs, helping pay their medical bills, and other acts of support came flooding back. Only now they were tainted with bitterness. As I scrolled through the comments below the video, I saw my parents trying to convince Aunt Maggie to take it down. But her response was simple and firm. "I don't know how to delete it, and even if I did, I wouldn't. Rachel deserves to know the truth." Her words felt like a small balm on a deep wound, a reminder that not everyone in my family had turned their back on me. In that moment, I realized that even amid betrayal, there was someone who still stood by my side. After the shock of the video, I knew I couldn't continue living with the pain caused by the very people who were supposed to care for me. Sitting alone in my quiet apartment, I thought long and hard before making a decision. To cut ties with my parents and stop all financial support. The final message I sent them was short but firm. "I know everything. Don't contact me anymore. From now on, my financial responsibilities toward the family are over." In the days that followed, I felt a mix of emptiness and relief. There were no more desperate calls or overwhelming requests for help. I began focusing on myself, something I had never done before. Instead of chasing after the approval of others, I started searching for what truly brought me happiness. I enrolled in an advanced restaurant management course, attended leadership development workshops, and even carved out time to revisit my love for reading, something I had neglected for years. Step by step, I felt a newfound sense of freedom and peace that I had never experienced before. I knew deep down that I had chosen the right path. As I began to settle into my new life, something unexpected happened. Relatives who had once stayed silent or stood by as I endured unfair treatment started reaching out to me. They sent messages of encouragement, apologies, and even admiration for my resilience. Sarah, a cousin I rarely interacted with, wrote in an email, "Rachel, I've always admired how you rose above the unfairness you faced. You're the pride of our family, and I'm so sorry I didn't stand by you sooner." It wasn't just family. My colleagues at the Golden Plate also expressed their respect and appreciation for what I had achieved. Michael Reeves, the man who trusted me with the role of CEO, often encouraged me during meetings. "Rachel, your accomplishments aren't just luck. They're the result of hard work and an incredible willpower. You deserve every success you've achieved." These words of recognition became a powerful source of motivation, helping me see my own worth more clearly. From a forgotten girl, I had become someone who could no longer be overlooked. Ultimately, I realized that happiness doesn't come from seeking my parents' approval, but from knowing, deep within, that I am worthy. As CEO of the Golden Plate, I realized I wasn't just leading a renowned restaurant chain, I was affirming an important truth. A person's value isn't determined by their starting point or others' recognition, but by their effort and determination to rise. With every strategic decision and expansion plan, I could feel my growth. From a girl who was once overlooked, to a respected leader. On the grand opening day of the Golden Plate's 5th location, I stood on stage addressing hundreds of guests, including colleagues, partners, and those who had supported me along the way. In that moment, I saw Aunt Maggie sitting in the front row, her eyes filled with pride. It was then I realized I had overcome all the judgments, and proved not only my capabilities, but also healed the wounds of the past. The next year, I started writing for Aunt Maggie's on the side, to be my passion. As the ceremony ended, I walked over to Aunt Maggie, held her hand tightly, and said, "I couldn't have done this without you. You always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." She smiled warmly, her voice filled with love. "Rachel, you achieved all of this because of who you are. And I know you'll go even further." The lesson from this story is that a person's value doesn't depend on others' recognition, but comes from their own effort and perseverance. Despite facing unfairness, comparisons, and a lack of support from her family, Rachel proved that with determination and hard work, any limit can be overcome. More importantly, the genuine support of someone who truly believes in you, like Aunt Maggie, can create incredible strength to help you achieve your dreams and affirm your worth. Share your thoughts about this story in the comments below. Don't forget to follow the channel so you won't miss more inspiring and meaningful stories about family, perseverance, and the valuable lessons learned along life's journey.